Okay, today we live in a world overflowing with constant noise, endless scrolling, relentless notifications, and the quiet pressure to always achieve more. Many chase happiness through success, possessions, or recognition, yet the feeling often slips away as quickly as it arrives. Deep down, you might wonder if there is another way, a calmer rhythm of life where stress does not dominate, negative emotions lose their grip, and happiness can be found in every moment. Welcome to Stoic Dhamma, a space where we explore ancient wisdom and the art of living with balance. In this video, we turn to Zeno of Citium, the founder of Stoic philosophy, who taught that true happiness emerges not from fortune, but from living in harmony with nature and cultivating inner strength. Together, we will uncover how Stoicism can help us find lasting happiness and discover the secret to a meaningful flow of life. To understand the heart of Stoic philosophy, we must begin with Zeno of Citium, the founder of this enduring school of thought. He arrived in Athens during the 3rd century before Christ, a time when the city still carried the memory of its golden age yet was overshadowed by political unrest, wars, and constant uncertainty. Amid this turbulence, Zeno began to teach a simple yet profound idea: happiness is found by living in agreement with nature, guided not by fleeting desires or external fortune, but by reason, virtue, and inner clarity. Imagine Athens during Zeno's time. The streets were crowded with merchants, soldiers, and philosophers from every school. The great empire had fractured, and people sought meaning in a world where wealth and power shifted like desert wines. In this context, Zeno stood in the painted Stoan colonnade decorated with vivid murals and shared his teaching that to live well, one must align with the natural order, cultivate self-mastery, and discover peace within. His message carried a quiet strength, offering stability in a world of chaos. The phrase "to live according to nature" was not about returning to the wilderness or rejecting civilization. Instead, Zeno meant something deeper: to recognize the rational order of the universe, to act in harmony with its flow, and to understand that our greatest task is not to control what happens, but to master how we respond. For him, happiness was not a gift from fortune, but a discipline of the soul, built upon wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. When we pause to consider the weight of these words, it becomes clear why this philosophy spoke so strongly to those living in an age of upheaval. Wars threatened stability, politics often betrayed justice, and material wealth could vanish in an instant. The search for happiness outside oneself was uncertain, fragile, and destined to disappoint. In such a setting, Zeno's teaching offered a radical alternative: happiness is already within reach, because it arises from the choices we make, the character we build, and the calm we cultivate in the face of life's storms. From here, we can bridge the gap to our modern world. While centuries have passed, the human condition remains strikingly similar. We live in an age of information overload, economic competition, and the restless pursuit of more status, more possessions, more recognition. Our screens flood us with comparisons. Our workplaces demand constant performance, and our identities often become tangled in the shifting currents of external validation. It is no wonder that many people feel anxious, restless, or perpetually dissatisfied. In this modern setting, we may ask the same question the Athenians asked in Zeno's day: where does true happiness come from? Is it in the numbers of a bank account, the applause of an audience, or the latest achievement? Or does it lie deeper, beyond what the world can give or take away? Consider how often we chase after things outside ourselves. We imagine that the next promotion, the next possession, or the next relationship will finally bring peace. Yet each time, the satisfaction fades, replaced by a new desire or a fresh anxiety. It is as if happiness is always dangling just out of reach, a mirage that dissolves when we approach. Zeno's wisdom invites us to question this pattern. Perhaps happiness has never been outside us. Perhaps it has always been waiting in the quiet discipline of the inner life. This does not mean denying the value of external goods. Wealth, comfort, and recognition can bring pleasure. But Stoicism reminds us they are not the foundation of a good life. To anchor happiness in them is to anchor a ship in shifting sands. The waves of fortune will always rise and fall. What Zeno proposed was an anchor that no storm could dislodge, the cultivation of virtue, the practice of reason, and the acceptance of what lies beyond our control. Think of how freeing this perspective can be. If happiness depends on fortune, then we are its slaves, forever at the mercy of circumstance. But if happiness depends on the virtues we carry, then we are already free, even in the midst of loss, even in the face of uncertainty. This is why later Stoics like Epictetus, who lived as a slave, could still speak of freedom, and why Marcus Aurelius, ruling an empire, could find stillness in the midst of power. They were all living echoes of Zeno's original insight. Picture the contrast between ancient Athens and today's fast-paced cities. The setting has changed, yet the struggle is the same. Then, as now, people sought happiness in fragile places amid war, uncertainty, and ambition. Stoic wisdom reminds us that peace is never given by the world but built within. So, we pause with a question: do we chase happiness outside, or do we cultivate it within? Each day reveals where we place our trust. Possessions fade, opinions shift, but when anchored in virtue, reason, and self-mastery, happiness becomes unshakable, a steady foundation untouched by external change. Zeno's Athens was filled with voices competing for attention: sophists, cynics, rhetoricians. Our modern world is much the same, filled with advertisements, influencers, and trends telling us where happiness lies. Yet beneath the noise, the Stoic message continues to whisper with quiet clarity. Happiness is not a chase, it is a practice. It is not found in the applause of the crowd, but in the silence of a steady mind. From here, we will turn in the next part to examine the deeper Stoic wisdom behind Zeno's words, the logic of why emotions can mislead us, why reason must be our guide, and how other Stoics like Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus built upon Zeno's foundation. But before we move on, it is worth carrying one thought with us. If the search for happiness in external things has always failed, perhaps the time has come to search inward, where the flow of life can finally be found. When Zeno of Citium spoke of happiness, he described it not as a fleeting joy, but as the natural result of living in harmony with the world. To him, the universe itself was ordered, rational, and alive. Human beings, as part of this greater order, were meant to live by reason, aligning their actions with nature. In this vision, happiness was not luck, but a disciplined practice of harmony. To understand his message, we must see nature not only as forests, rivers, and stars, but as the rational order that sustains all things. Zeno believed that within this order lies the key to peace. By living in tune with reason, by accepting the limits of what we control, and by practicing virtue, we live in accordance with nature's flow. The more we resist this flow, the more suffering we create for ourselves. From this foundation came a bold insight. Our greatest suffering does not arise from events themselves, but from our judgments about them. Negative emotions, anger, fear, envy, despair are not inevitable. They are distortions of perception. If we misjudge what is good or evil, we react in ways that create turmoil. If we learn to see clearly, guided by reason, the mind grows calm, steady, and resilient. This is why Stoicism emphasizes the cultivation of virtue. For Zeno, and for all Stoics after him, virtue was the only true good. Wealth, reputation, and pleasure could be enjoyed, but they were not the essence of happiness. What mattered was the quality of one's soul, the practice of wisdom, justice, courage, and self-control. These are the anchors that hold steady, even when fortune shifts. Think for a moment of your own experiences with anger or fear. Often these emotions feel overwhelming, as if they arrive from outside. But if you look closely, you may notice they are tied to thoughts, to expectations, to judgments about how the world should be. The Stoics believed that by training the mind, by questioning our judgments, we can reshape our responses. In doing so, peace is no longer dependent on chance. The logic of Stoicism is both demanding and liberating. If your distress comes from your judgments, then no one and nothing outside can truly harm your soul. What lies within your control, your thoughts, choices, and actions becomes the foundation of happiness. What lies beyond your control, fate, fortune, and the actions of others can be met with acceptance. In this way, freedom is not external but deeply internal. Marcus Aurelius, writing centuries later while carrying the weight of an empire, echoed this same wisdom. Amid wars, betrayals, and constant pressures of power, he reminded himself that the mind can remain tranquil if it aligns with reason. To him, the essence of life was not to escape chaos, but to remain still within it, to find clarity even as the world shook around him. Epictetus, once a slave, carried the teaching into another form. He taught that our true power lies only in our own will, never in external circumstances. Chains may bind the body, but the mind can remain free. He urged his students to remember that suffering comes not from events, but from our opinions about them. This inner freedom, he argued, was the foundation of resilience. Together, these voices form a chorus across centuries: Zeno, Marcus, Epictetus, Seneca. Each faced different lives: merchant, emperor, slave, statesman, yet all discovered the same truth. Happiness is not granted by wealth or circumstance. It arises when the mind lives in harmony with reason, when emotions are tempered by clarity, and when virtue guides the heart more than desire or fear. When we compare this with modern psychology, the similarity is striking. Cognitive therapies teach that our thoughts shape our emotions, and by changing perception, we change our state of mind. The Stoics anticipated this thousands of years ago. What they offered was not only intellectual theory, but a way of life, practiced daily, tested against hardship, and designed for resilience. Imagine yourself in a moment of deep frustration, perhaps at work or in a relationship. You feel tension rising, your thoughts racing. In that instant, Stoicism offers a quiet reminder. Pause. Notice the judgment that fuels the emotion. Ask whether it is within your control. Ask whether anger or despair will help you act with wisdom. By seeing clearly, the intensity begins to fade, replaced by steadiness. This is the gift Zeno offered a way to transform perception, to shift from reactive emotions to deliberate action. Happiness then becomes less about chasing pleasure and more about practicing harmony. It is not the denial of feelings, but their guidance by reason. It is not withdrawal from the world, but a deeper engagement, rooted in clarity and strength. The Stoics recognized a timeless truth: life will always carry hardship, death, loss, injustice, uncertainty. These shadows cannot be escaped. Yet within this shifting landscape, the human spirit holds a choice. We cannot command fortune, but we can shape our response. To live wisely is to accept the boundaries of fate while exercising freedom through thought, character, and virtue. In this balance lies the possibility of true happiness, not a fleeting spark, but a steady current guiding us through life's storms. This understanding forms the heart of Stoic philosophy. Zeno of Citium offered the foundation, reminding us that harmony with nature is the key to inner peace. Marcus Aurelius expanded the vision, teaching how reason anchors us amid chaos. Epictetus sharpened the lesson, showing that freedom is found not in circumstances, but in mastering our own judgments. Together, their voices create a path where resilience is possible, even in adversity. Now, the question turns to us: how do these principles speak to modern life? Can they help us face the relentless demands of work, the delicate balance of relationships, and the unseen battles within our own minds? In the next part, we explore Stoicism in practice, where timeless wisdom meets the everyday. Philosophy becomes alive only when it is lived. For Zeno and the Stoics who followed, wisdom was never meant to remain on scrolls or within lecture halls. It was a guide for daily existence, woven into the smallest decisions and the greatest challenges. To apply Stoicism in our own time is to take these ancient insights and test them against the pressures of modern life. Consider the realm of work and success. In today's culture, professional achievement often feels like the defining measure of worth. Promotions, recognition, and performance targets can dominate our sense of identity. Yet Stoicism offers a liberating shift in perspective. Success, in Stoic terms, is not the applause of others but the quality of one's effort. If your actions are guided by virtue, by integrity, discipline, and fairness, then you have already succeeded, regardless of outcome. When faced with workplace stress, deadlines, or conflicts, the Stoic practice is to pause before reacting. Imagine a difficult meeting where criticism feels unjust. Instead of responding with anger, take a breath and ask, what lies within my control? My words, my tone, my choices, these are mine. The opinion of others is not. By anchoring in this clarity, the storm of emotion loses its power. Relationships, too, reveal the depth of Stoic practice. Human bonds are essential, yet they can also be sources of pain when expectations go unmet. A friend disappoints, a partner misunderstands, a colleague betrays trust. The Stoic approach is not to withdraw from connection, but to cultivate resilience within it. By accepting that others act from their own nature and circumstances, we release the illusion of control. Love then becomes freer, more generous, less demanding. This does not mean indifference. On the contrary, Stoicism deepens compassion. When we stop expecting perfection from others, we become more patient. When we realize their faults are shaped by ignorance, fear, or pain, we respond not with rage, but with understanding. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that he would meet selfish, arrogant, and ungrateful people, yet he chose to see them as part of the shared human condition. Beyond work and relationships lies the inner life, the true sanctuary of Stoicism. In the silence of thought, we can either find turmoil or peace. The Stoics taught that the mind can be trained, like a muscle, through deliberate practice. Negative emotions may arise, but with awareness we can recognize them, question them, and choose our response. This inner discipline becomes the foundation of lasting stability. One practical method is the practice of pausing the mind. When irritation or fear emerges, instead of rushing to act, stop and observe. Ask, what belief fuels this emotion? Is it something within my power, or beyond it? This moment of pause breaks the chain of reactivity, creating space for reason to guide action. In this small act, freedom is discovered. Another tool is the Stoic journal. Each evening, many Stoics reflected upon their day, what choices honored virtue, what responses fell short, and how tomorrow could bring improvement. Writing becomes a mirror for the soul, revealing patterns of thought and behavior. Over time, this practice strengthens self-awareness and fosters growth, not through harsh judgment, but through patient correction. Meditation, too, was part of Stoic life, not always in the sense of stillness with closed eyes, but as mindful reflection on principles. Contemplating mortality, for instance, was not meant to create fear, but gratitude. By remembering the brevity of life, each moment becomes precious. By reflecting on virtue, we align daily actions with the larger flow of nature. Such meditation steadies the heart amid uncertainty. In daily practice, Stoicism is less about suppressing emotion than about refining it. Joy becomes deeper when rooted in gratitude rather than possession. Courage becomes steadier when born from clarity rather than defiance. Even sorrow, though painful, becomes bearable when seen as part of life's natural rhythm. The Stoic does not reject humanity, but learns to live it with wisdom. Modern life offers countless opportunities to test these practices. In traffic, where frustration rises, we can pause and accept what cannot be rushed. In conversations where tension flares, we can choose calm words over harsh ones. In disappointment, we can remind ourselves that value lies not in outcome but in effort. Each moment becomes a chance to practice freedom, a rehearsal for virtue. The core reminder is this: happiness is not found outside. It is not in titles, possessions, or the fleeting praise of others. It is in the steady flow of inner clarity, the harmony between thought and action, the quiet strength that remains even when circumstances shift. To live this way is to embody Zeno's vision, a life guided not by desire and fear, but by wisdom and virtue. Applying Stoicism does not require dramatic rituals. It requires small, steady choices, choosing patience when anger tempts, choosing honesty when deception seems easier, choosing presence when distraction calls. Over time, these choices weave a different kind of life, where calm replaces chaos, and happiness flows not from fortune, but from within. As we bring these Stoic practices into our daily lives, a quiet transformation begins to unfold. Work shifts from a struggle for control to an opportunity for meaningful contribution. Relationships grow lighter, less about expectation and more about genuine presence. Our inner world softens, turning from conflict into clarity. In these changes, Stoicism is no longer distant philosophy, but a living guide woven into the rhythm of everyday moments. This progression leads us naturally toward a deeper discovery, the flow of life itself. If happiness is the fruit of inner clarity, then flow is its expression, the seamless movement where action and acceptance, effort and ease, meet in harmony. Flow is not about escaping challenges, but engaging them with balance, letting reason and virtue steer our response. In the next part, we will explore how Stoic practice creates this flow, guiding us to live not only wisely, but also joyfully, attuned to life as it unfolds. As we reach the heart of this journey, it becomes clear that happiness is not a prize of chance or a treasure found in external success. For the Stoics, happiness is an inner state, the steadiness born of living in harmony with nature, guided by reason, where emotions move with clarity instead of impulse. To see happiness this way is to free it from fortune's fragile grip. Wealth may disappear, health may falter, relationships may change, yet if rooted within, happiness remains unshaken. Zeno and his followers sought not to escape life's storms, but to navigate them skillfully, steady at the helm, calm at the core. This vision leads us to the idea of flow. Today, flow is described as effortless action, when time dissolves and life feels balanced. For the Stoics, flow was deeper, not distraction, but alignment with reason and virtue, where even hardships became part of the current rather than obstacles against it. Think of the river as an image. The current of life flows endlessly, carrying events, changes, and opportunities. To resist this current, to fight against what cannot be controlled, is to exhaust oneself. But to accept the flow, to guide the vessel with reason and virtue, is to move with grace. This, in essence, is the Stoic vision of flow and ease, born not from passivity, but from wise engagement with reality. We see this wisdom mirrored in Marcus Aurelius, who often reminded himself to be like a rock in the sea, unshaken by waves, yet not opposing the water's flow. His strength lay in his ability to remain calm amid chaos, to act justly even when surrounded by injustice, and to continue the work of virtue regardless of circumstance. In this way, he discovered flow not by escaping responsibility, but by embracing it with clarity. For Epictetus, the flow of life was the freedom of the mind. A man who had lived in slavery understood deeply that freedom was not about external conditions, but about how the soul related to them. He urged his students to distinguish between what is within their control and what is not. In accepting this division, they could move with life instead of resisting it. Flow, then, was the art of consent to nature's order. When we bring this teaching into our own age, its relevance is striking. Modern life pulls us in countless directions. Deadlines, constant communication, and social expectations create a rhythm that feels fragmented and restless. Yet Stoicism invites us to return to a steadier pace. By practicing awareness, by pausing before reaction, and by focusing on what lies within our control, we begin to discover a flow that is calmer, more intentional, and more sustainable. Imagine facing a demanding workday, Instead of drowning in tasks or worrying about recognition, you focus on what can be done with integrity. You bring presence to each task, completing it with care. You release the need to control the outcome or the opinion of others. In this shift, stress lessens, clarity increases, and what once felt heavy begins to move more lightly. This is Stoic flow in practice, or think of relationships. Conflict often arises when we cling to expectations, demanding that others behave as we wish. Stoicism teaches acceptance without indifference. When you see that another person's choices are theirs, not yours to control, you gain freedom. You can choose patience, compassion, or silence. You can act with justice and kindness without being enslaved to their behavior. In doing so, relationships regain balance, and love flows without chains. Inwardly, Stoic practice deepens flow through mindfulness. By noticing each thought, recognizing its origin, and choosing how to respond, the mind becomes less chaotic. Journaling, reflection, and meditation become tools to strengthen this inner rhythm. Over time, the self learns to live not in reaction, but in steady intention. The result is not numbness, but clarity of mind that moves with life as current rather than against it. To find flow through Stoic practice is not to escape hardship. Life will always present grief, loss, and uncertainty. But within this flux, the Stoic discovers a constancy. Like the steady flame of a lamp, the inner life shines even when the winds of circumstance blow. Happiness, then, is not the absence of difficulty, but the presence of resilience, the ability to move through life with balance and calm. This way of living carries profound benefits for our modern age. Stress diminishes because we no longer fight battles we cannot win. Work becomes more effective because our attention is centered, not scattered. Relationships deepen because they are freed from unreasonable demands. Most importantly, happiness ceases to be fragile, tied to circumstance, and instead becomes durable, rooted in the inner harmony of virtue. Stoicism offers no rigid formulas, only practices to be lived. Each person must test these principles in the fabric of daily life. Pause in moments of anger, reflect when sorrow comes, practice gratitude and joy, and return again and again to the simple awareness of what is truly within your power. With repetition, Stoicism becomes second nature, a gentle current guiding the soul as effortlessly as a river carries water to the sea. As you listen, perhaps ask yourself, where do you resist life's current? Where do you cling to control that is not yours? Where do you let external forces dictate your peace? By noticing these patterns, you begin to loosen their hold. And in loosening, you create space for a lighter, freer, more harmonious way of living. The Stoics never promise perfection, only progress. Happiness is not a distant reward but present now in every clear choice, in every act of virtue, in every moment of acceptance. Flow is not a goal to chase, but a practice, unfolding daily as we align with nature and with ourselves. So let this be an invitation. Test these truths in your own life and discover the inner flow of happiness already waiting within. As we conclude this journey into Zeno's vision and Stoic wisdom, we return to a timeless truth. Happiness is never a gift of circumstance. It is born of inner strength, the quiet reward of virtue, and the calm flow that comes when reason guides emotion. True happiness is not pursued but practiced patiently, daily, with clarity. Life will always bring storms, yet through discipline of mind and the cultivation of courage, justice, temperance, and wisdom, we remain anchored. This is the essence of a meaningful flow, moving with nature, not resisting it, and finding resilience within. The path begins with small steps, pausing to observe emotions, reflecting in a journal, or practicing gratitude. Over time, these acts strengthen the inner citadel, allowing happiness to take root as something steady, enduring, and unshakable. Thank you for walking this path with us today on Stoic Dhamma. If these reflections have touched you, consider subscribing, sharing your thoughts in the comments, or simply pausing for a moment of quiet contemplation. In our next video, we will explore true freedom, the highest goal to find inner peace, where we will continue this journey of ancient wisdom and daily mindfulness.
References 1. Hadit, p. The Inner Citadel, Meditation on Stoic Philosophy of Marcus Aurelius. Harvard, 1998.2. Irvine, W. B. A Guide to the Good Life, The Ancient Art of Stoic Joy. Oxford, 2009.3. Long, A. A. Stoic Studies, Essays on Hellenistic Philosophy and Ethics. Cambridge, 1996.